Honourable Presiding Member, I thank you for allocating me some time to speak on the policy statement made by the President. With regards to that statement, I'd like to go straight in to the substantive concerns that we have. As you know, Honourable Presiding Member, the President in that statement refers to the Northeast in one instance, just merely one paragraph towards the end of his speech. He says this: "It is also essential to provide a political solution to the issues faced by the Tamil community for a long time. They are suffering with many social and economic issues due to the hardship of war. There are many land issues that need to be resolved. We have to think anew about the development tasks in the north. We expect to get the support of the Sri Lankan Tamils living abroad by closely working with them on the program of rebuilding Sri Lanka. We look forward to their visits and investments in their motherland." So that is the only specific reference that the President has made to the Tamils of the Northeast. Now, why I want to start my comments with this specific reference is that not too long ago, in the year 2001, when there was a general election and the UNF at that time got a majority in Parliament, Mr. Wickramasinghe was then appointed as the Prime Minister. There was President Kumaratunga who was remaining as President, but you had the UNF having a majority in Parliament and he was appointed Prime Minister. He went on to sign a ceasefire agreement with the LTTE and a so-called peace process commenced. And in the course of those negotiations, what was known as the Oslo Communique came out. You yourself will remember it very correctly. At that time, I think it was your previous incarnation where you were working at the Berghoff Foundation when I first met you. And when those negotiations commenced and the Oslo Communique came out, there was a huge gap, Honourable Presiding Member, between that communique, what was stated in that communique, and what was actually happening on the ground. And that was the concern of not just the LTT, but also the TNA, to which I used to belong at that time, that whilst you have a government that says it is prepared to explore federalism, which is what Mr. Wickramasinghe signed up to, on the ground he was doing the complete opposite. There was absolutely no movement. If you are in fact prepared to consider federalism and you're serious about it, on the ground there was absolutely no movement towards normalization. There was a very convenient narrative about a hostile president being thrown at us at every turn. But when it came to realities on the ground, there was absolutely nothing to suggest that there was a genuine change in the hearts of the government and the state to transform Sri Lanka into a federal state. If there was, and if we in fact felt that there was that genuine change, things would have been very different. But of course, as always, the narrative is very different. The convenient scapegoat became the LTT and by extension the Tamils. It was the Tamils who were never sincere to federalism. This is the narrative that was sold, not just to the Sinhalese people, but to the whole world. That it is the Tamils who are not sincere. They are only interested in a separate state and nothing else. And therefore a military option is the only option, was what we were told. Well, At that time, Prime Minister Wickremesinghe could have got away with it by saying there was a hostile president, there was a hostile parliament, and therefore he could not do much. But today those tables have turned. Today, President Wickremesinghe holds this entire house, and may I say the whole entire country, at his fingertips by becoming the president, the all-important president. Certainly this house, a vast majority, certainly not our party, and maybe a couple of others, but everyone else here is prepared to work with him. So he has the backing of the entire house. It is a house that has, since 2020, destroyed the country, so it depends on Wickremesinghe, the president, to bail them out. The people don't want this house. People want this house dissolved. They want an election. They want a fresh mandate. So it is this house that totally depends on President Wickremesinghe. Well, if Mr. Wickremesinghe was genuine about the Oslo communique that he signed up to then, he can make the case today. He can make the case to this house, and through this house, he can make it to the whole country and say that, look, the Tamils have been wronged. Their rights must be granted. Federalism does not mean secession. Federalism does not mean separation. On the contrary, federalism is probably the best way, not only in securing democracy, not only in securing good governance, but certainly also in holding people to account, holding this house to account, because you will have so many administrations right through the country that will create genuine leaders at that level who can be a good example, who can be good competition, so that even members of this house have to live up to certain expectations and standards. So you can make the case. You can make the case right now, if you are genuine about the policies that you signed up to in 2002, 2003. But unfortunately, Mr. Wickremesinghe does not say a word of it. And on the contrary, he calls himself a Sri Lankan and wanting a Sri Lankan identity, where he says something somewhat worrying. His notion of a Sri Lankan identity, Honourable Presiding Member, is one of not having different identities. He calls the different identities divisions. He wants us to forget our differences. He feels that differences is weakening Sri Lanka. So surely, Honourable Presiding Member, what the then Prime Minister Wickremesinghe signed up to in 2001, 2002, and what he is now saying as the all-powerful president are two opposites. Are two opposites. They both can't be true. So which is the genuine Wickremesinghe? Which is the genuine Wickremesinghe? And it is here, Honourable Presiding Member, that I tell the members of this House that there is a massive credibility issue here that the Tamils will keep raising. At the end of the day, Honourable Presiding Member, Mr. Wickremesinghe must reflect on how he came to becoming the president of this country.
You have 2 more minutes.
He must reflect on the struggle that at times turned violent, yes. He calls it terrorism. He didn't call it terrorism when he was seated in these opposite benches. In fact, on the contrary, he repeatedly said that the people's struggle must be protected. Must be protected. Once before also, Honorable Presiding Member, I made a speech where I said, when a non-violent protest is done in the most non-violent and democratic way, and when the whole country makes the point that change is required, and when that change does not happen, at some point frustration will creep in, and naturally the people's protests democratically will change, and it will change to violence. Why? Because the very nature of the protest is to call back a mandate that they had given. And the whole world knows that the people have in fact called back that mandate. If they hadn't called back that mandate, and if this House did not believe that they had not called back that mandate, the former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa need not have resigned. So the people have called back the mandate. They are asking that you have an election so that they can have a fresh mandate, so that they can have confidence in this House. But you choose not to do it. Instead, you manipulated the situation.
The time is over, Honorable Member.
I'm winding up. I was told that I have 14 minutes. Instead, they manipulated the situation where today you have President Wickremesinghe rising up to the presidency. And then for him to call the method by which he rose to that presidency as terrorism and violence, Honorable Presiding Member, is just not on. It is just not on. And the only reason he can say that, is because he is still totally indebted to the members opposite.
Thank you for your contribution.
He depends entirely on the SLFPP. He depends entirely on the undemocratic verdict that this parliament today gives. And therefore he has to satisfy them, and the only way by which he can satisfy them is by making sure that the people's voices are reduced to naught, and that is what he is doing. And it is for this reason,
thank you for your contribution.
Member, till such time as the President withdraws the emergency and releases
Honourable Minister, Honourable Member, you have to stop. Thank you for your time.
Everybody, we believe that the all-party government that he talks of,
thank you, Milangata Garu Sanjeeva Edriman.
Thank you.